You're watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture. Funding for Shalom TV has been provided by the following. And by viewers like you.
Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark S.Golub.
If music is the international human language, able to touch the soul in ways that inspire, move one to tears, and open windows into the divine, then it should be no surprise to anyone that the institution known as the heartbeat of the nation Israel is the highly esteemed Israel Philharmonic Orchestra, which for 75 years, longer than the state of Israel has been in existence, for 75 years, has stood as a powerful symbol of freedom and peace in its role as cultural ambassador for the state of Israel. And for the past 50 of those 75 years, the Israel Philharmonic has been graced by the baton of the world's greatest conductor, Zubin Mehta, who also celebrates this year his 75th birthday. And to the joy of music lovers throughout this country, the Israel Philharmonic chose to mark its 75th anniversary and the 75th birthday of its celebrated conductor with a 7-city American national tour. And to talk about the contribution which both the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra and its music director for life, Zubin Mehta, have made to the state of Israel and to the world of music, I recently had the wonderful pleasure and privilege to sit with one of my personal heroes, a man whose extraordinary gifts and talents have made him one of our generation's musical giants. And in addition to Richard Rodgers, he is the only person in history to have won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, a Tony, and a Pulitzer for his Broadway musical classic Chorus Line. By the way, he's also won 2 Golden Globe Awards. Of course, I'm speaking about the brilliant American Jewish composer Marvin Hamlisch, who also happens to be, together with his wife Terry Blair, a co-chair of the American Friends of the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. Here then is my meeting with Marvin Hamlisch. Marvin Hamlisch, what a tremendous kick it is for me to get to sit with you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
You know, you and I are roughly the same age. We graduated college the same year.
Right.
I have been distant, but watching everything you've done. And I want you to know something, Marvin. I love what I do. I am a rabbi. I am the president of Shalom TV and also of the Russian television network. I do television all day long. And then I'm a rabbi on the weekends. And I produce Broadway shows, and I love to be on stage, and I know your father was an accordionist. Right. I played the accordion. But I want you to know that if I could be anyone else other than me, I would be you.
No, you wouldn't. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Showbiz rabbi is a better thing to do.
Okay. Anyway, I want you to know that we have all appreciated the gifts you've given America and the world through your extraordinary music and talent.
Well, thank you.
And I thank you for spending a moment with me.
My pleasure.
I'm interested in talking about 2 things in the little time we have together.
Right.
I want you to talk for a moment about what you feel emotionally about the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra and what Zubin Mehta means to you as yourself being, you're a conductor of 5 American symphonies. Right. So I'm interested in that, and I want to talk a little bit about your extraordinary background as well. But talk first about your feelings about the Philharmonic and Zubin Mehta.
Well, you know, I met Zubin Mehta a few times in my life. He's an extraordinary man, an extraordinary conductor, and you cannot help, if you're a musician, but to learn something about how to do it right just by watching him, because he has such a great rapport with the people that he works with. So that's something you really watch and love. When it comes to Israel and the Israel Philharmonic, it's interesting because, you know, if you're Jewish, as I am, I didn't ask for it, it's how it happened, you know. But if you are, and if you have parents who were thrown out of their country, called Austria, before the Second World War, then it means a lot to you to have an orchestra like that around and coming to visit New York. I happen to be a person, though, that believes strongly in the whole idea of bringing people together. I mean, I love what Barenboim has done with putting together, you know, Israelis with Palestinians, with, you know, I love all that. So I'm very much a person who believes in bringing people together. And that's why I think music is a key ambassador to do that. I think anytime you can do that, I think there should be more of that, by the way, in my opinion. I think we don't use music enough as an ambassador, whether it's the United States or any country. I just think it's an underachiever. It should be more. But the idea of this tour, I think, was wonderful. And when I was asked with my wife to chair it, we immediately said yes. Also because, to be honest with you, the musicality of that night, having Bronfman be the soloist, I mean, you can't ask for anything much better than that.
That's at Carnegie Hall.
At Carnegie Hall. So, I mean, I think it's just an amazing evening. And it is historic. You know, 75 years to have an orchestra, and 50 years to be, you know, and also to be conductor for life, you know. I mean, who gets that, you know? The American president, if he's lucky, gets 8 years, you know what I mean? But conductor for life, now you're talking, you know? So, yes, it's a very extraordinary event, and I'm just very happy that we were able to do it.
You have visited Israel?
I visited now. Actually, I visited 3 times. My wife, who's not Jewish, by the way, loves Israel. I have my own problems because, to be honest with you, when it gets too hot, I get crazy. I get really crazy. You know, so you have to hit Israel at just the... You know, I'm one of these people who, every time I come back from Israel, no matter what month I say I was there, this person says, wrong time. I've never met anybody who said, you went to the right time. It doesn't matter what date you picked. I went in January, wrong. I went in November, wrong. I went in June, wrong. I don't know. Someone should call... There should be an app called Right Time in Israel. I've never found it. But I do know it's a fantastic place. I do know that someone said it's like walking in the Bible, which it really is. You're walking in history, and it's remarkable.
Marvin, did any moment specifically touch your soul in Israel? Was there any moment that you keep as a memory?
Well, you know, again, when you see all the names and you realize, and the museum having to do with the people who died,
Yad Vashem.
You know, the Yad Vashem, that was, you know, I mean, I don't have grandparents because of World War II.
Yes. Okay,
so that was very meaningful. The other thing I must say, going to the wall, really, and putting your little, you know, little prayer in, yeah, it gets to you. And the other thing that gets to you is you realize that this place that you're talking about, you know, America and Americans, when we think of history, we think 200 years, 250. That's like, wow, 250. That's a drop in the bucket when it comes to the world outside of America. So meeting people who have a much more, I would think, much greater sense of what history really is, you know, is a fantastic thing. And sitting down and talking to people in the Middle East. I had a wonderful time when I visited Jordan. I've been to Jordan, and I visited Egypt and Israel, of course. And you do get a whole other perspective on the whole world, and also on the Middle East, you know. So yes, those were moments that really, as we say, got to me. And you can't help but be touched by it.
Talk to me for one moment about your parents, Lily and Max.
Right.
When they, first of all, they escaped Vienna, correct?
Right.
And they are technically survivors.
Well, what happened
although
was,
they went before the war.
What happened with my father, who was really an intellectual man and saw history. I mean, he understood history very well. Way before Hitler got into power, way before, he saw what the problem was going to be.
Really?
It became very clear to him. And he very, very smartly said, we got to get out of here. And getting out of Vienna was not the easiest thing to do. Because my father looked very Jewish, but my mother didn't look Jewish at all. She is Jewish, she was Jewish, but she didn't look Jewish. So she was the one on the line trying to get the ability to get out.
Whatever papers were necessary.
Whatever papers were necessary. But my father saw it coming. And so the reason that we're here really has to do with him. An interesting sidelight to this is that years later, when Chorus Line became a big hit, I was awarded a gold record from Austria. Now, a gold record in Austria, you only have to sell something like 50,000 records, not like 1 million in America. And I don't think anyone in Austria thought that I was going to come there to actually pick up the record, you know, to say, okay, I'm going to pick it up. But because it meant so much to me, because my parents were from there, it's one of the few places that I actually went to be at the ceremony. And the reason I went was to try to tell them and to try to have them acknowledge and understand what it meant for my father to leave his homeland. Because he was always a Viennese at heart.
Really?
Always a Viennese at heart. In fact, the way he made money in America finally was to basically become an accordionist who played a lot of continental music in America. It was very hard for him to live in this country because, as he said, it was very difficult for him to live in a country where we didn't have a minister of arts. That was foreign to him totally. So he loved Austria and would have stayed there his entire life had this not happened. So the whole idea of chairing an evening having to do with Israel and this, you know, this philharmonic and this orchestra touches me very deeply.
In many ways.
Yeah, in many ways, yeah.
Were your parents musical? Did you grow up in a musical home?
My father played 6 instruments, and we had a piano in the house. And as I used to say, it wasn't so much that I went to the piano and went, wow, wow, wow. Because what I really wanted to be was the center fielder for the New York Yankees. A lot of people don't realize this was my dream. But the dream that I could do was I could play the piano. I had a very good ear. My father played the piano. It was in the house. And yeah, it was like
I've read you started playing at a very young age.
Very young age.
It just was a gift you had.
Absolutely.
And you loved it right away?
I can't say I loved it, but I liked it a lot. And then as you become older and you realize that when you play something and a girl by the name of Alice walks over to the piano and says, gee, that's nice, you go, you know what, I could work this out. This could work.
You're so honest, Marvin. Refreshingly honest.
Right.
So what I see happens is you go to Juilliard while you're still very young, even before real school.
I started out at 6½ at the preparatory division of Juilliard.
And at what point do you know yourself the gift you have is unusual?
Well, you know that at an early age, but what you learn very quickly amongst the geniuses at Juilliard is that, yes, you have a gift, but all these other kids have gifts. And you start to say, where is my lane? What is what I can do? Well, this kid plays better than me. This kid does this better. So what I gravitated to was something that no one could really grade you on, which was to write music. Because that was my little world, my little thing that, well, I can do this. And that's what I started to do. I started to write. And my father very smartly said to me, well, if you want to write music, you better learn how to play it well, because people are going to ask you to play, and you don't want to just sit there going, blah, blah, you want to be able to play it. So I used my music lessons and my piano lessons to really learn how to play the piano well enough to play my own music.
And your father was encouraging of you.
All the time. And what my mother did was even more encouraging.
Tell me.
She said to me, if you practice an hour, you get a wonderful tuna fish sandwich. And I said, it's worth it.
What's better than a tuna fish sandwich?
There is nothing better than tuna fish sandwich. A lot of people don't know this. They think it's corned beef, but no. No, it's tuna fish.
But there was music in your home, you've established that.
Right, all the time.
Was there Jewishness in your home?
Oh, please. Are you kidding me? Let me tell you, this is one of the great moments that I always remember. You know how people remember certain things?
Yes.
Okay. There was a bank. We lived on the west side. There was a bank on 74th Street. It still exists. 74th Street and Broadway.
I know it well.
Okay, huge bank.
I live at 78th.
Okay, so you know the bank I'm talking about.
I know the bank.
So here's what I remember from a young age. You say, what are the things you remember? Okay, what I remember is my mother and I going to the bank because she was going to put in the money. She has her deposit, right? But what does she get every December? She gets the calendar. You get a free calendar.
That's correct.
Remember?
Right.
Free calendar at the bank. That's important. And what does she do day one when she has the calendar? And by the way, I still have calendars of hers that I've saved.
This is marvelous.
The first thing she does is she circles the Jewish holidays. She circles Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, which I still do on my calendar. So if you say to me, was there Jewishness? There was no Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur we didn't know about. There was no Passover that we didn't,
What was the Seder like as you were growing up?
Fantastic. The Seder was fantastic. we usually only did one Seder. We were not the two Seder group, although later on in my life I said, why not, you know? And I always remember an aunt that I had who, on one of the fishes that we would have, that my mother would have, would always go, you know, there'd be a bone in the fish. So Seder was like you hoped your aunt would live through it. And I was going to open up a store called Harosis is Us. Because I don't understand why Harosis is only done for a little bit of time, and it's one of the great dishes of all time. I think there should be a Harosis store, personally.
I love it.
But I love Passover. I think Passover is a great holiday.
Did you go to the equivalent of any kind of Talmud Torah or Hebrew school?
I went to Hebrew school starting at the age of 8 years old.
No, where?
West Side, West End, what was called the West Side Synagogue. And then we switched over to Mount Nebo, a great synagogue, by the way. It doesn't exist anymore. It's now a high-rise.
What are your memories of going to a religious school? You understand, by the way,
Right.
There's a good chance that you and I were in that same bank at the same time. You with your mother, I was with my
Absolutely.
grandmother.
Yeah.
We could have been contemporaries.
It's very possible.
What was it like for you? What was your memory of going to religious school, Hebrew school?
No. Well, I didn't learn Hebrew very well. I did not do that very well. But I certainly learned enough, I mean, and stuff like that. And, of course, I took, you know, I not only was bar mitzvahed, but I also was confirmed. So you're talking about, you know, there was a
You're
lot
a real Jew.
Please, I'm the real thing. You know, my temple is so reformed, we're closed on the high holidays. I mean, it's gone all the way. But no, I still, to this day, I mean, I remember, even though I'm not like kosher, the truth of the matter is I never ate bacon. I didn't do all that because it was partly because of my mother. The traditions of my mother were the traditions we held up. Whether or not it was a Jewish tradition or not, I don't know. That's what there's no pork, we're not eating pork. No ham, we're not eating ham. I remember, for instance, one of my favorite stories, Jewish stories, true story, is that on Yom Kippur, you know, after the Yitzhak service, we would come out in a Reform temple, and it would be 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun is shining. And my mother said, no, this is ridiculous, because it says in the Daily News that the sundown is 6:08. So what did we have to do? This is a true story. We would have to put on our sneakers and go to the Orthodox temple, which of course continues.
Yes.
And I used to make fun. I used to say, because it was a great temple called the Karlbach Temple. You probably know it.
My grandfather's shul.
So your grandfather's shul.
Amazing.
One of the greatest temples in the world. One of the great men of all time.
Absolutely.
And this is what I used to say. I said, you walk in. They've been davening forever, right?
Yes.
It's 4 o'clock. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you hear, and now turn to page 4. Because the last 10 minutes of that service was...
That's correct.
But until then, they were on page 4.
We were in the shul at the same time.
Absolutely. Right?
Amazing.
It was great.
Marvin.
My sister went to the right side. I went to the left side. And the great thing about the shul was that because it was so small, you could still smell the coffee and the coffee cake getting ready. But, you know, you could smell it, but you can't eat it until whatever.
Yes.
So I remember all this time. I had wonderful times. And... yeah, I mean, listen, I have a cousin who's a very well-known rabbi, Rabbi Kushner.
Of course.
He's my cousin. So, I mean, yes, it's within me.
Okay.
You know?
Did anything in your ear, Jewishly in terms of music, do you think in any way it influenced anything you've ever done on the piano?
If it did, I don't know about it.
Okay.
I don't knowingly know about it. On the other hand, if I get a big check, I don't feel guilty. So it all works out. You know what I mean? But no, I don't know. It's possible, you know. I mean, one of the scores I wrote early on, which is The Swimmer, when people listen to it, it has a little bit of a Jewish kite in it. But I didn't specifically do that. You know what I mean? I don't think about it that
yes,
way.
I understand. There
it's
was no
almost
conscious effort
No,
to do
it's
it.
like, you know, your brain is a sieve. Stuff comes in, and you work with it how it comes. And whether or not it was Jewish or not, I don't know.
Then leave your composition alone.
Right.
Just in terms of your field, does the sound of Jewish music, if you were to play for us for one moment 8 bars of something Jewish, would it also touch you in any way?
Yeah, my mother used to sing a beautiful, very sad
Lullaby?
lullaby. Now, you know, lullabies are supposed to be happy and wonderful. This is one of the saddest songs you ever heard in your life. I mean, it's about a man who dies at the war. And I used to say to her every night, sing that again. You know, my sister loved... And I was always drawn to the really, but Which I think is a nice thing, because the truth of the matter is I like very emotional music. I like to write.
You do?
Yes, I do. I love it, you know. So some of the songs and some of the... Listen, I did Avinu Malkeinu for Barbra Streisand, which she recorded on her album.
Bowie, that
So,
was,
you know-
I didn't. Bowie, I know that you were her musical director
Right.
for a period
We
of
did
time.
that. We did that.
This was your suggestion?
No, this was the thing she wanted, and we got a wonderful choir, and we did the version that she knows. You know, that's one of the things. My only criticism of the Jewish music in temples, which I critique, is the following. I love the fact that it's wonderful music. I wish it were the same music. I don't love the fact that if I go to a temple, God knows where, that all of a sudden the Shema is different than the one that I heard in New York.
I understand.
I think there are certain prayers that should stay as is.
Universal.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we shouldn't write other things. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely, have your own this, have your own that. But certain ones, the Micha Mocha, the Shema, they should be like forever. It's like saying to you, I'm changing the Pledge of Allegiance, and the Pledge of Allegiance we're going to change because we're in Oklahoma. I want to change it.
Or
Why?
we'll change the melody of the Star Spangled Banner.
Right? Why? Why? What's the point? There's nothing wrong with making things a little bit more personal in other prayers, not in those. You know.
Yes, I understand exactly what you mean. Barbra Streisand does her concert in Central Park.
Right.
Were you a part of that?
No.
Okay.
Did not see it.
You know she does one time. She does in August.
Right.
Silent Night.
Right.
It is exquisite.
Right,
but
wonderful.
it's in August.
Right, good.
Not in December. Okay.
Right. Good.
Then she does Yentl.
Right.
Right. Then she does Avinu Malkeinu
know.
with you.
Right. Right.
And I also know just an interesting tidbit that our audience should know, if I'm correct. One of your first jobs was as the rehearsal pianist
Right.
for Funny Girl.
For Funny Girl, right.
For Barbra Streisand.
Right. I actually wasn't her pianist. I was her pianist for Everybody But.
Oh, really?
But it didn't matter, because there were so many songs in which she sang with the chorus that I had to play. We had to come together because that's how it was. When she had her solo numbers, she had another pianist.
Okay,
Anytime she worked with the cast, I was working.
What did it mean to you as a young person to be working with a Barbra Streisand?
It was fantastic because she was a star already. I mean, that girl was a star from day one. When she went on television as a youngster, I still remember on I think it was Channel 5 in New York. It was a local television show. She had been to the Bonsoir. She was really a bona fide star, and yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. And the thing about her that's never changed is the voice is great and her instincts are perfect. That's what people don't realize. This business about saying that she's a perfectionist, she can't help it. Her instincts are right. If your instincts are pure and right, then of course you're going to go for perfection. You might not even know you're doing that. But that's how it is, because you hear it differently, you hear it uniquely, you hear it the right way.
Is she easy to work with professionally for you, or is it very difficult to work with someone of that talent?
I think what makes it easy is if everybody is trying to get an A+. If you're trying for an A+,
You've always wanted an
right,
A+.
if you're trying for an A+, you have no problem working with her. As I said to the orchestra on the first day of rehearsal, if you're not in this for the long haul, best to leave now. Best to leave now, because it's going to be a long process. It's going to be a very specific process. But the answer at the end is very much like I said, it's like NASA. If you want to hit the moon, if you want to get to the moon, you're going to have to give a certain amount of your life blood, right? That's what it's like.
You said that you're drawn to emotional music.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you've done so many wonderful songs yourself. One that is extraordinarily emotional is The Way We Were.
Right.
Okay? Tell me how that came to be.
That came to be because originally the film started at a college. A lot of people don't remember the very opening of the film starts at a college, and they asked me to go to the college to get a sense of the college. And when I went to the college, there were bells that rang every hour. Every hour you heard this at the college. I don't know why, but I guess that they identified the hour. So when I came home, this was what I did for the first few days. That was it. That turned into, and again, days go by, you know. That turned into thinking about long notes because Barbra Streisand's singing. And then, of course, we were blessed with a fantastic title. I mean, the book was a great title. So what you do is you make sure that in the song you leave enough room for the title. And that's slowly but surely how you plot the song.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, I can almost never hear this without tearing up.
Right.
Do you remember as you were writing this, Marvin, did it ever get to you?
You know what happens with a song is it gets to you on day one. The key is, does it get to you on day two? Because on day one, it's like you just think, wow, wow, wow. Then you have to go to sleep and wake up in reality on the next day. If it still gets to you day two, you know you have something.
And you knew
Yeah.
it got to you on day
Yeah,
two?
absolutely.
Does it still get to you?
Oh, yeah. And what got to me more, of course, was when she sang it. Then you went, wow, oh my God.
Oh, my God. I told you before, you are one of my heroes. You are a lovely human being. I love your sense of humor. I love your insight. It's been an honor talking to you, and it is thrilling to be able to talk to you most about the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra.
Right.
Thank you for your
My
time,
pleasure.
Marvin. Thank you. And that was my meeting with one of America's leading composers, Marvin Hamlisch. I hope you enjoyed meeting him. And if you'd like to celebrate with the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra their 75th anniversary and the 75th birthday of their celebrated conductor for the past 50 years, Zubin Mehta, it continues through March 1st, and here is the schedule. Saturday, February 19th in Naples, Florida, at Francis Pugh Hayes Hall at 8 p.m. Sunday, February 20th in Palm Beach, Florida, at Kravis Center at 8 p.m. Tuesday, February 22nd in New York City's Carnegie Hall at 7 p.m. On Wednesday, February 23rd in Newark, New Jersey at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center at 7:30 p.m. On Saturday, February 26th out in Seattle, Washington at Benaroya Hall Theater at 8 p.m. On Sunday, February 27th in San Francisco, California at Davies Symphony Hall at 7 p.m. On Monday, February 28th in San Francisco, California at Davies Symphony Hall. And on Tuesday, March 1st, the tour concludes in Los Angeles, California at the Walt Disney Concert Hall at 8 p.m. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who can send a tax-deductible contribution of $36 or more to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media to help support our programming. Tax-deductible checks may be made out to GEM and mailed to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. Please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD, and we thank you for your kind support.